Dr. Heijin Park stood in front of the quantum drive's maintenance panel, checking the regular readings. It was just another normal day on the research vessel New Horizon. The soft hum of the engine filled the empty engine room. He had done this check hundreds of times before. The clock on the wall showed 3:30 p.m. Earth Standard Time. Heijin wanted to finish his work quickly because he had promised to play virtual chess with his daughter back on Earth. He smiled thinking about her. She was getting better at the game every week. The quantum drive's display showed all normal readings, glowing with a gentle blue light. Heijin wrote down the numbers in his tablet, but then he noticed something odd. There was a small red light blinking in the corner of the panel. It wasn't supposed to be there. "That's strange," he said to himself. He leaned closer to look at it. The maintenance manual didn't mention anything about a red light in that section. He pressed his communicator button to call the control room. "Control, this is Dr. Park. I'm seeing an unusual signal in section Q7 of the quantum drive. Could you check the readings from your end?" "Copy that, Dr. Park," answered the control room operator. "Give us a moment to check." While waiting for their response, Heijin noticed the red light was blinking faster. The engine's usual gentle hum changed to a higher pitch. Something was definitely wrong. "Dr. Park, our readings show a power surge building in that section. Please step back from the panel immediately." Heijin started to move back, but he wasn't fast enough. There was a loud crack, like a bolt of lightning, and a bright flash of blue-white light filled the engine room. The force of the explosion threw him across the room. Everything went dark for a few seconds. When Heijin opened his eyes, he was lying on the cold metal floor. Emergency lights were flashing, and the alarm was ringing through the ship. He tried to push himself up, but something was wrong. He couldn't feel his right arm. He turned his head to look, and that's when the shock hit him. Where his right arm should have been, there was nothing below the shoulder. The quantum surge had somehow cleanly removed his arm. Strangely, there was very little blood. The wound looked like it had been sealed by the intense energy of the surge. The engine room door slid open with a hiss. Dr. Yoon-ha Kim, the ship's medical officer, rushed in with her emergency medical kit. Her eyes widened when she saw Heijin. "Don't move," she said firmly, kneeling beside him. She quickly scanned him with her medical device. "How do you feel?" I can't feel any pain," Heijin said, surprised by his own calm voice. "It's like my arm just disappeared." More medical staff arrived with a hover stretcher. As they carefully moved him, Heijin noticed the alien doctor, Dr. Malik, examining the scene with all four of his eyes wide open. The Centaurian physician was taking readings with a strange device Heijin had never seen before. "Fascinating," Dr. Malik muttered. "The energy signature is unlike anything in our medical database." As they moved Heijin to the medical bay, he wasn't thinking about his lost arm. He was thinking about his chess game with his daughter. "Dr. Kim," he said, "could you send a message to Earth? Tell my daughter I might be a little late for our game." Dr. Kim nodded, but her attention was focused on her medical scanner. The readings were showing something she had never seen before. This was just the beginning of a discovery that would change medical science across the galaxy. 3 weeks had passed since the quantum drive accident. Dr. Heijin Park sat on the medical bay bed while Dr. Yoon-ha Kim examined his shoulder. The room was quiet except for the soft beeping of medical machines. "This is very strange," Dr. Kim said, looking at her scanner screen. She had been saying that a lot lately. "The tissue at the wound site is showing unusual activity." Heijin tried to look at the screen, but he couldn't make sense of the medical data. "Strange how?" he asked. He had gotten used to the missing arm, though he still sometimes tried to reach for things with it. "Well," Dr. Kim began, "normally, human wounds heal by creating scar tissue. But your cells are behaving differently." She pointed to a moving pattern on her screen. "They're not just healing. They're rebuilding." The medical bay door opened, and Dr. Malik entered. The Centaurian doctor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he walked over to them. "Dr. Kim, have you seen today's readings?" he asked, his translator making his alien speech sound almost musical. "Yes, I was just explaining to He-Jin," she replied. "I've never seen anything like it in my 15 years of medical practice." Dr. Malik connected his own medical device to the examination table. A hologram appeared above He-Jin's shoulder, showing layers of tissue in different colors. According to the Galactic Medical Database, he said, no known species can regenerate lost limbs naturally. Not even the salamandrian species, who are famous for their healing abilities. He-Jin watched as the 2 doctors studied the hologram. "But what does this mean for me?" he asked. "Will I need a cybernetic arm?" Before either doctor could answer, the hologram changed color. The tissue layers at his shoulder joint were now glowing bright green. Dr. Malik made a chirping sound of surprise. "The cells," Dr. Kim said, leaning closer to the hologram. "They're organizing themselves into new patterns. This isn't random healing. They're following a blueprint." Dr. Malik quickly typed something into his device. "I'm seeing high levels of activity in what we thought was junk DNA. These protein markers." He paused, all 4 eyes widening. "They're not in our database at all." He-Jin felt a tingling sensation in his shoulder. Dr. Kim's scanner started beeping faster. The hologram showed waves of cellular activity spreading from his shoulder down into the empty space where his arm used to be. "It's accelerating," Dr. Kim said. She pressed her communicator button. "Medical bay to bridge. Captain, we need to document this. The regeneration process has begun." He-Jin stared at the empty space below his shoulder. In the hologram, he could see a faint outline forming, like a ghost of his missing arm. Will it be the same as my old arm?" he asked. Dr. Malik checked his readings again. "Based on these patterns, it appears your DNA contains complete instructions for rebuilding your arm. Every muscle, every nerve, every blood vessel, all perfectly mapped out. This changes everything we know about human healing," Dr. Kim said. She was already preparing more advanced scanning equipment. "We need to record every detail of this process." The tingling in He-Jin's shoulder grew stronger. Through the hologram, they could all see the first layers of new tissue beginning to form. Dr. Malik was recording everything with 3 different devices, while Dr. Kim prepared to take tissue samples. "I should probably call my daughter," He-Jin said with a small smile. "She'll be excited to hear she might get to play chess against 2 of my arms again soon." The doctors were too busy with their readings to respond. They knew they were witnessing something that would rewrite medical textbooks across the galaxy. In the corner of the medical bay, the hologram continued to glow, showing the slow but steady return of what was thought to be impossible to regain. Dr. Malik sat in his private research lab aboard the New Horizon, all 4 of his eyes fixed on the wall of data screens before him. 2 months had passed since He-Jin Park's accident, and the human's arm had regrown to the elbow. The Centaurian doctor had not slept for 3 days, trying to understand how this was possible. "Computer, replay the cellular reconstruction sequence again," he said. The main screen lit up, showing a detailed view of human cells rebuilding themselves. Dr. Malik had watched this recording hundreds of times, but he still couldn't believe what he was seeing. The lab door opened, and Dr. Yoon-Ha Kim walked in with fresh tissue samples. "He-Jin's new tissue tests just came back," she said, placing the samples in the analysis chamber. "The DNA matches his original arm perfectly." Dr. Malik's upper eyes blinked in excitement, while his lower eyes remained focused on the data. "In all my years of medical research, I have never seen anything like this," he said. "Do you know what this means, Dr. Kim?" Before she could answer, the analysis chamber beeped. New data appeared on the screens. Dr. Kim walked closer to read it. "These protein markers," she said, pointing to a complex pattern. "They were always there in human DNA, weren't they? We just never knew what they did." "Exactly." Dr. Malik stood up, his excitement making his translator chirp. Your species has had this ability all along. Our medical scanners were never designed to detect these energy patterns because we didn't know they could exist. He-Jin entered the lab for his daily checkup. His partial arm was covered by a special monitoring sleeve that Dr. Malik had designed. "How's the research going?" he asked, sitting in the examination chair. Dr. Malik guided the examination scanner over He-Jin's growing arm. "Your species is remarkable," he said. "For centuries, alien medical science has tried to understand cellular regeneration. We studied salamanders, starfish, and even the healing crystals of the gas giants. But the answer was in human DNA all along." Dr. Kim showed He-Jin the latest scans. "See these patterns," she said, pointing to swirling lines of light. "That's your body rebuilding your arm, following the exact blueprint stored in your DNA. It's like having a complete instruction manual for every part of your body." "But why didn't we know about this before?" He-Jin asked, watching his new fingers move slightly. The sensation was strange, but not unpleasant. Dr. Malik brought up more screens of data. "Because human medicine never had a reason to look for it," he explained. "Your natural healing was enough for most injuries. It took an accident with alien technology to activate this deeper regenerative ability." Dr. Kim added another tissue sample to the analysis chamber. "The quantum surge from the drive accident didn't just remove your arm," she said. "It somehow activated these dormant regeneration instructions in your DNA. We're still trying to understand exactly how it happened." He-Jin flexed his new elbow, watching the muscles move under the skin. "Will other humans be able to do this too?" he asked. Dr. Malik's four eyes all focused on He-Jin. "That's what we need to find out," he said. "Every human has these same protein markers, these same instructions in their DNA. We just need to understand how to activate them safely." The lab's communication screen suddenly lit up with an incoming message from Stellar Medical Station 7. The station's medical board wanted an immediate report on their findings. News of human regeneration was starting to spread. "I think," Dr. Kim said, looking at the message, "this is just the beginning of something much bigger than we imagined." Stellar Medical Station 7 was the largest medical facility in this part of the galaxy. The station usually moved at a calm, steady pace, but today was different. The arrival of the research vessel, New Horizon, had turned the entire station into a center of excitement. Chief Medical Administrator Jai-Wan Lee stood in her office, looking out at the dozens of ships that had arrived over the past few days. Medical researchers from 20 different alien species had come to see the human who grew back his arm. Administrator Lee, her assistant, called through the intercom. "The Galactic Medical Board representatives are ready for the presentation." Jai-Wan straightened her uniform and picked up her datapad. As she walked to the main conference room, she saw groups of alien doctors talking in excited whispers. Some of them had traveled for weeks just to be here. The conference room was packed. Doctors of all shapes and sizes filled the seats. Some floated in anti-gravity chairs, while others stood on specialized platforms. At the front of the room, He-Jin Park sat next to Dr. Malik and Dr. Kim. "Thank you all for coming," Jai-Wan began. "As you know, 2 months ago, we witnessed something that changes everything we thought we knew about human biology." The room went quiet as He-Jin stood up and removed the monitoring sleeve from his new arm. The arm wasn't fully grown yet, but it worked perfectly. He picked up a cup of water and took a drink, showing everyone how well the new fingers worked. A Valorian doctor, whose species looked like tall blue trees, spoke first. "Our medical records show humans have never displayed regenerative abilities before. How do we know this isn't some kind of trick?" Dr. Malik stepped forward, his four eyes glowing with excitement. "I have personally documented every stage of the regeneration process," he said. "The data is real. Human DNA contains complete regeneration instructions. They were always there, hidden in what we thought was junk code." The room erupted in questions. Ji-Won watched as Dr. Kim displayed the detailed scans on the large screen. The images showed He-Jin's arm rebuilding itself, layer by layer. This discovery changes everything, Dr. Kim explained. We need to rewrite our understanding of DNA. What other abilities might be hidden in the genes of other species? A small crystal-like being floated forward. The Galactic Medical Academy demands access to all research data, it said through a translator. We must study this immediately. Jai-1 raised her hand for quiet. Earth's Medical Council has agreed to share all data, she said. But we need to work together. This isn't just about humans. This could help us understand healing in all species. Hejin stood up again. I'm not a doctor, he said simply. I'm just an engineer who had an accident. But if my arm growing back can help other people, I want to help. The room filled with the sounds of approval from various species. Ji-1 watched as alien doctors began forming research groups right there in the conference room. Some were already planning new studies and experiments. As the meeting continued, Jai-1's data pad lit up with messages from medical schools across the galaxy. They all wanted to know the same thing. How would this change the way they taught medicine? Administrator Lee, Dr. Malik said quietly, I believe this is just the beginning. The Human Regeneration Project will change medical science forever. Looking at the excited faces of doctors from across the galaxy, Jai-1 knew he was right. The accidental discovery aboard the New Horizon was about to start a medical revolution. Professor Sun Med-cho walked through the newly built research wing of the Galactic Medical Academy. The bright lights reflected off the polished floors as she made her way to the main laboratory. 6 months had passed since Hejin Park's arm began to regenerate, and now she led the largest medical research project in galactic history. The laboratory doors slid open, revealing a vast room filled with advanced equipment from a dozen different worlds. Teams of human and alien scientists worked together at various stations. Some studied tissue samples, while others analyzed complex genetic data. Professor Cho called Dr. Malik from his research station. You need to see these new results. The Centaurian doctor had moved permanently to the academy to continue his research. All 4 of his eyes were focused on a detailed genetic map floating in the air before him. Sun Med walked over to his station. The holographic display showed the complete structure of human DNA, with certain sections glowing brightly. What have you found? She asked, adjusting her glasses. Watch this, Dr. Malik said. He pressed a button, and the display changed. When we scan human DNA with standard alien medical equipment, these sections appear inactive. But when we use the new scanning method we developed, he pressed another button, and suddenly the inactive sections lit up with complex patterns of energy. Sun Mai leaned closer to the display. So our medical technology was blind to human regenerative abilities because we were looking for the wrong signs. Exactly, Dr. Malik chirped excitedly. It's like trying to listen to music on the wrong frequency. The song is playing, but you can't hear it. Across the lab, a group of researchers led by Dr. Yoon Kim were testing tissue samples. They had collected samples from volunteers of various ages and backgrounds. Every sample showed the same hidden regenerative potential. Professor Cho, Dr. Kim called out. The tissue tests all show the same results. Every human has these regenerative abilities. They're just waiting to be activated. Sun Mai walked over to examine their results. On the testing platform, small pieces of human tissue were slowly rebuilding themselves. The process was much slower than Hejin's arm regeneration, but it was definitely working. The quantum surge from the engine accident somehow turned on Hejin's regenerative abilities. Sun Mai explained to a group of visiting medical students. Now we need to find a safe way to activate these abilities in other humans. In another corner of the lab, a team of alien scientists was redesigning medical scanning equipment. They had to create new devices that could detect the unique energy patterns of human cellular regeneration. Their old equipment had missed these patterns for centuries. It makes you wonder, Dr. Malik said, joining Sun Mai at the main research console, what other abilities might be hidden in the DNA of other species. We've been using the same scanning technology for so long. we might have missed many things. Sun Mi nodded, looking around at the busy laboratory. Human doctors worked alongside floating crystal beings and tall tree-like aliens. They were all learning from each other, discovering new ways to understand life itself. "This is more than just learning about human regeneration," she said. "We're learning how to look at biology in completely new ways. Every species might have hidden abilities we never knew about." As she spoke, another tissue sample began to glow under the new scanning equipment. They were getting closer to understanding how He Jin's accident had activated his regenerative abilities. Soon, they might be able to help anyone regrow lost limbs or heal serious injuries. The research phase was just beginning, but it was already changing everything they thought they knew about medical science. Dr. Taho Kang stood before the Galactic Medical Board in their grand meeting chamber. The circular room was filled with representatives from every major medical institution in known space. 8 months had passed since the discovery of human regeneration, and everything was about to change. "The old ways of teaching medicine are no longer enough," Taho said, his voice clear and confident. "We must completely rebuild our understanding of how living beings heal themselves." The chamber's massive screens showed images from medical schools across the galaxy. Students of all species were learning to use new scanning equipment that could detect previously hidden biological processes. The old scanners sat unused in storage rooms, now considered primitive tools of the past. A senior board member, a being made of pure energy contained in a special suit, spoke up. "Dr. Kang, you're asking us to throw away centuries of medical knowledge. This is unprecedented." Taho walked to the center of the chamber where a hologram appeared. It showed He Jin Park's fully regenerated arm next to scans of other healing processes from various species. "We're not throwing away knowledge," he explained. "We're expanding it. Look at these scans." The hologram changed to show the same tissue samples viewed with both old and new scanning methods. The difference was striking. The old scans missed entire layers of biological activity that the new equipment could detect. "Every species has abilities we never knew about," Taho continued. "We found them in humans first, but now we're discovering similar hidden processes in other species. The Valorians can regrow their branches faster than we thought possible. The crystal beings can repair their core structures in ways our old scanners couldn't see." Dr. Malik stepped forward to join him. The Centaurian doctor had become one of the strongest supporters of the new medical approach. "I have been a doctor for 40 Earth years," he said. "But in the past 8 months, I have learned more about healing than in all those years combined." The board members whispered among themselves. On the screens, more images appeared showing new discoveries from across the galaxy. Every week, researchers were finding new healing abilities in different species. "We propose a complete update of all medical education programs," Taho said. "Every medical student, whether human or alien, must learn these new scanning techniques. They must understand that healing happens in ways we never imagined before." A young crystal being floated forward. "My people have already begun adapting our medical training," it chimed. "The results are remarkable. We have discovered regenerative abilities in our crystal matrices that we never knew existed." The energy being who had spoken earlier moved to the center of the chamber. "Dr. Kang is right," it announced. "We cannot ignore these discoveries. All medical institutions must update their teaching methods and equipment immediately." Taho looked around the chamber. He saw acceptance in the faces and postures of the various alien representatives. Even the most traditional medical schools were ready for change. "This is more than just a change in how we teach medicine," he said. "This is a change in how we understand life itself. Every living being has secrets we're just beginning to discover, and we can only find them if we learn to look in new ways." The Galactic Medical Board voted unanimously to approve the changes. As Taho left the chamber, he knew that medical students across the galaxy would never look at healing the same way again. Minna Song walked through the halls of the new Galactic Medical Academy, carrying her research notes. The academy looked very different from when she first started her medical training a year ago. Now, students of all species learn together in specially designed classrooms, using the new scanning equipment that could detect hidden healing abilities. Today was an important day. Minna was going to present her graduation thesis on cross-species cellular regeneration. Her research had revealed new ways to adapt human regeneration techniques for other species. The presentation hall was filled with medical professionals from across the galaxy. Next to present is student Minna Song, announced the academy director. Her work has already caught the attention of major research institutions. Minna stepped onto the presentation platform. The modern hologram system activated, showing detailed medical scans floating in the air around her. She had worked on these scans for months, studying how different species could activate their hidden healing abilities. A year ago, she began, "We thought human regeneration was impossible. Now we know that every species has healing abilities we never saw before. My research shows how we can activate these abilities safely." The hologram changed to show a series of successful treatments. A Valorian who regrew a damaged branch in days instead of months. A crystal being whose core healed twice as fast as normal. Even a young Centaurian who recovered from a serious injury using techniques based on human regeneration. Dr. Malik sat in the front row, all four of his eyes focused on the presentation. He had helped guide Minna's research, sharing his experience from studying He-Jin Park's regenerated arm. Next to him sat Dr. Yoon-ha Kim, who had become one of the Academy's most respected teachers. "The key is understanding that every species heals in its own way," Minna explained. "We can't copy human regeneration exactly, but we can learn from it. Each species has its own hidden healing abilities. We just need to know how to activate them." She demonstrated the new scanning techniques she had developed. The audience watched as her scans revealed layers of healing activity that old medical equipment would have missed completely. Several medical board members took careful notes. "This isn't just about healing faster," Minna continued. "It's about understanding our bodies better. Every patient, whether human or alien, has more healing potential than we ever knew. As doctors, we need to help them unlock these abilities." The presentation ended with actual case studies. Patients who had recovered from injuries that would have been permanent under the old medical system. Each success story showed how the new understanding of healing had changed lives across the galaxy. After her presentation, Minna received offers from several major medical institutions. They all wanted her to help implement her new treatment methods. But she had already decided to stay at the academy as a teacher, helping to train the next generation of doctors. "Your research will help many people," Dr. Malik told her after the presentation. "You have taken what we learned from He-Jin's accident and turned it into something even more remarkable." Minna looked around at the academy's busy halls, where students of all species learned together about the new frontier of medical science. She knew that this was just the beginning of a new era in healing. 1 year had passed since He-Jin Park lost his arm in the quantum drive accident. Now he stood on the main stage of the Galactic Medical Conference, looking out at thousands of medical professionals from across known space. His newly regenerated arm, now complete and fully functional, gleamed under the bright lights. "A year ago, I was just an engineer doing routine maintenance," He-Jin began, holding up both his arms. "I never expected that losing my arm would change medicine forever. But here we are." The massive conference hall was filled to capacity. Doctors, researchers, and medical students of all species had gathered to celebrate the first anniversary of the human regeneration discovery. The event was being broadcast to medical facilities across the galaxy. Dr. Yoon-ha Kim sat in the front row, now wearing the formal robes of the head of Human Regenerative Medicine Department at the Galactic Medical Academy. Next to her, Dr. Malik had received special recognition for his early documentation of the regeneration process. His research had helped create the foundation for the new medical science. Thanks to the hard work of doctors like Dr. Kim and Dr. Malik, He-Jin continued, "We now understand that healing is more amazing than we ever imagined. Every species has hidden abilities. We just needed to learn how to see them." The main screen behind him showed images from the past year, the first scans of his regenerating arm, the development of new medical equipment, successful treatments using the new techniques, and students learning in the reformed medical schools. Professor Sun Mei-cho stepped forward to present the latest statistics. In just 1 year, she announced, we have helped over 10,000 patients unlock their natural healing abilities. Every major medical facility now has the new scanning equipment. Every medical student learns about hidden healing potential. He-jin watched as Min-ah-song, now a respected teacher at the academy, demonstrated the latest healing techniques to the audience. She had helped many patients, both human and alien, recover from injuries that would have been permanent under the old medical system. But this is just the beginning, He-jin said. Every day, we discover new things about how living beings can heal. Every species has secrets we're still learning about. The accident that took my arm opened a door, and we've only taken our first steps through it. Dr. Taho Kang, representing Earth's Medical Council, presented the plans for the future. New research centers were being built. Medical schools were expanding their programs. The discovery of human regeneration had started a revolution in medical science that would continue for years to come. At the end of the conference, He-jin returned to his quarters on the medical station. His daughter was waiting to play their weekly chess game through the video link. As he moved the pieces with his regenerated hand, he thought about how one accident had changed so many lives. Checkmate, Dad, his daughter said happily. Your new arm is pretty good at chess too. He-jin smiled. His accident had done more than just prove humans could regrow limbs. It had shown that there was still so much to learn about life itself. As he looked out the window at the stars, he knew that somewhere out there, another discovery was waiting to be made. The future of medicine was brighter than ever before.